Hey guys, it's Mike G back here with Logical Raptors Fanatic. I just want to say first off, the support, the shout outs, obviously big ups to Grubstown. If you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe. And Raptors Freak, he has a great little community. He does more live things. There's chatting in the chat and like kind of more interaction. He's also like in Scotty Barnes' Twitch chat, so if you want to kind of understand what's going on there and stuff, I think he's a great resource. Kind of finding out what's the deal with Scotty, probably from day to day, because he seems like he's in there a lot. So yeah, sub up to both of them, and thanks for the shout out, guys. Both great creators, have an inclusive community. I want to have that too. Like everyone can come in, have their own opinions, and everyone be respected. I like that part of the Raptors community. Obviously, there's outsiders that want to say things from time to time, and you have to kind of get a little bit more serious and kind of like pull facts out and stuff like that and get debatey with certain things. But ultimately, I think it's all just in the interest of the game and like wanting to understand, promote each other's teams, and like vice versa. Other person wants to promote their team. So it's really interesting. But today we have a video, kind of an interesting one at this time because I want to like focus on more the positives of coaching and kind of the element of how coaches really sharpen their skills and look at the journey kind of Nick Nurse has taken. It's incredible. I'm like beyond blown away by some of the stuff that I've researched. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. So I'm just gonna try to condense and focus in on certain aspects I feel are important that kind of weigh into today and how the coach he is today and how it affects the Raptors and more bring it back to that kind of point in the end. So I want to say that wow, I'm just so blessed to have him as a head coach and Masai finding him. It has been super great, and I hope he continues on with us for as long as possible. Enjoy. Hey, so today I'm doing like the Raptors recipe, so we're gonna go through all the kind of steps a person's gone through. It's interesting that he said Chris Boucher has climbed the rungs of the NBA ladder, but it's almost like he's been doing the same journey, so he understands most of the difficulties and stuff that these guys go through. It shows like how much of a people person from where he's been and what he's done. He's It's just a great story of a guy that just continues to win and be like creative and innovate. I'm gonna tie in some of his music love. Maybe I'll lay out something initially. I think Nick Nurse currently, I'm gonna talk through it, maybe show you how like at certain points where his philosophy changed and stuff. But ultimately, in the end, I think he looks at like basketball as music. Like each team is their own band, and he's the songwriter, and he needs to write a song that includes everyone harmoniously, right? And when you show that song to the musicians that are going to play it, they have feedback, they have input. You obviously know kind of what are their strengths and weaknesses, so you want to highlight their best parts in certain areas and maybe like, you know what I mean, help cover up different weaknesses. So it's really interesting how I think he really connects that and he sees like all sports as like kind of a music kind of thing where it's like this intriguing like dance and the music being played is kind of the coaching direction. And I think he really looks at it as like art and everyone's artists. They're looking to grow, get better, like artists grow throughout their lifetime and get better at an instrument. It's called mastering an instrument, right? And each player plays their own instrument and has their own part in the big orchestra of things. And I think he really understands that kind of collective power of everyone having a part and making the sound kind of more deep and more complicated and obviously more beautiful and more like intriguing, right? That's why I think people find him really interesting, like other coaches and other guys find him as like kind of a trendsetter. He thinks of it as like, yes, there's certain coaches that have very structured kind of music where they tend to stay in the rules of the genre. But I think Nick Nurse sees it more as like improv jazz, where everyone's just jamming and playing their own kind of piece. In each game, this plays out, right? You can have like an idea of the kind of stuff you want to play, but only when you're actually playing it and in the moment of the jam session can you realize, oh, this part sounds better here. And like, it takes like doing it sometimes to really kind of hone in on your skills to be able to improv, right? And that's what he's trying to build in each player, I think. You're gonna see an interesting journey where the guy pretty much had like every job under the sun. It's crazy. It's crazy. So we're gonna start off, I guess, here. We'll start off with his playing days to understand kind of how he was as a player first. And so he grew up in Iowa, went to Northern Iowa for 4 years, and he played point guard for those years. And I think probably at that time he was growing his knowledge. Like obviously he grew up playing basketball. He said that his squatting is actually from like being wanting to be close to the TV and see every little detail of the basketball game, and his parents kind of saying, get down, you're in the way." So he'd have to squat and kind of like watch TV. And so that's why he kind of like squats when he's watching the game unfold. I think he finds like comfort in it, in a similarity, and it really, I think, keeps him engaged. It's something like minuscule in a sense. It's funny, like I've seen a couple videos kind of trying to break down the minutes he squats and stuff. It's really interesting, but I think it's just more of like a thinking thing. He does it when he's thinking about different things, but also trying to watch the game. So he's like double track thinking, and I think, I don't know, weirdly enough, squatting kind of helps him get in that mindset, like get really focused like he was when he was a kid, when he was only focused on the game, right? I think it's that like focus mindset thing. Because Chris Boucher, it's interesting. In my last video, we went over a lot of stuff about Chris Boucher and stuff, and I think it's really interesting. He's found this like meditation thing, a focus thing. I think Nick Nurse understands about it. It's like this man can relate to anyone. I swear, he's been in so many places. He understands so many people. He's like a tough, hard worker, kind of never given anything. You could see as you go along, he's kind of had to make his way. All right, so we'll start getting into that right now, actually. So we got early Nick Nurse. I kind of like divided. He's coached for so like long. I had to like cut it up into like different sections of years. So we just talked about him playing for Northern Iowa. I think his 5th year there, the the coach offered him a chance to kind of wet his feet as an assistant and see how that went. So he kind of learned that first year how a coaching program is run from the other side. So he kind of conjoined his player like IQ and skills throughout the year. He looks great here, by the way. He he obviously like took the knowledge he had as point guard and all the knowledge that he had his whole life, but I think now we're starting to see like where he starts to structure it and see exactly what is needed by the coach. So it's really interesting. He he has his book all right. Like obviously his book's really long and there's full of a bunch of stories and it's a great read and stuff, but I'm gonna try to focus more on some other things here. But in his book he says the only place that would let him play was a place where he had to be like the head coach too, which is Derby Rams, which in Britain, if you know, like e- like their British Premier League, right, or British Premier League, right, and they have like a couple great teams up top, like Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea, and some are better than others, and then there's some teams in the that aren't on that level. They're completely on a different level, right? And this is the Derby Rams. He said like there was no funding really. So it's really interesting. So he had to right away start using his imagination. He didn't have the players really necessarily to go up against the bigger teams, the London Towers or like the other teams in that kind of BBL league, the British Basketball League right there. So it's really interesting, and he got a nice, good year of it, right? So then he moved back to the States, right? And he took a position at a call or a university or college or whatever, right? As head coach, because he wanted to try his hand at running a US program and see kind of how it differed, I guess, and just see how he if he liked it or not, really building from the bottom at like a university or college, right? So he spent 2 years there, learned some stuff, I guess, like probably hit and miss on certain things. And then he wanted to kind of see how the Division 1 schools kind of ran things. So he went to South Dakota as an assistant to kind of probably up his knowledge a bit, see how a more structured program, maybe a more serious program ran things for another 2 years. And then I think this is where it gets really interesting because then, like, I guess he didn't like the college route as much. He didn't like how the coaching kind of, he didn't like being an assistant as much as a head coach and trying different things. I don't think he wanted to experiment more and try to find his own style and philosophy. Like when we start anything as like artists or doing anything, even this YouTube right now, I'm trying to find my voice, trying to find my style, trying to figure out how I want to present different things. So I think he wanted to go right into trying to learn. And I think in the British Basketball League, he had a great opportunity there, right? And right away, he kind of starts hitting it. But I think it's mainly when he comes back to the States, I think he starts viewing some of the Jordan triangle stuff. And it's really interesting. He kind of brought the triangle to the British Basketball League with the Birmingham Bullets. They're not like up their team. And it's really interesting because the first year, obviously, BBL All-Star game head coach, that's pretty good, right? Like, so he's already starting the bat off, like starting off, like learning how to orchestrate with stars in the league, trying to see what things about them, what makes them tick, start talking to them, start networking, like, you know what I mean? Starting to find out what kind of pitfalls there are in developing these stars and when they're made stars, kind of character flaws and stuff, and it starts seeing really kind of the interesting deep details of different players because I think when the talent is kind of an even spread, you kind of see more character things show up and bubble to the surface. Like you have two teams that are equal talent, everyone's kind of the same talent. I think coaching and character kind of really takes it up a notch and determines who wants it more, who's going to win, right? So obviously he did really well in 95, But I think '96 is really interesting because he got the triangle to work against the best team in the league, and he actually beat the London Knights or London Towers, sorry. So Nick Nurse pretty much beat the super team of the league, which is insane with using the triangle. So he showed innovation and able to kind of conquer the giant with David Talent. And I think that really pushed his like coaching level up a game. Obviously next year I think it didn't hit the same, but he had the cachet to get like the all-star game head coach. And I think they made a change, which is really strange. But then the guy coming in, Mike Finger, won again with the Birmingham Bullets, and he beat Thymus Valley. I'm not too sure on them as a team, right? But it's we'll come back to that in a second. We'll put a pin in that. So then he went to a Belgian team, a Belgian pro team, and competed and won a couple things with the Triangle in Belgium. I'm pretty sure, like Belgian Cup and Belgian Super Cup's pretty decent. So uh, this championship, this era, kind of showed him like being different, kind of can win you the biggest games of the like the biggest games of the moment, right? The championship games, the ones that you really need to win. Different things can really elevate the play, and he showed it by beating a way better team than him, right? So I think that shows early on in winners, they find a way to succeed. No excuses, just get it done. Get it done. There was no, oh, the other team has better players, we just can't do it. No, figure out a way how to do it. And I think he's a great problem solver like that. He really wants to find a way to kind of engineer a way to beat a better team. I think he finds it as a really intriguing challenge, keeps his mind always like sharp and competitive. He's thinking of different advantages and scheming and how to use different players differently. So I think that goes into kind of where I think the birth of the different thought path for him changed. And he said he'd get videos during this era of like the MJ Bulls and Phil Jackson running the triangle and stuff, and he kind of tried to dissect and imitate that. Obviously, he saw the failures in the system, which eventually it got figured out, and unfortunately didn't have the best team or the best year after the championship with probably the same talent and stuff. So it's really interesting how sometimes you can kind of make a breakthrough, but then kind of take a hit. So yeah, I kind of had to fall back again. But I think still learning and getting that championship, it really elevated his ability and I think want to really succeed in saying I can succeed anywhere pretty much as long as I continue to grow and understand the game and learn different strategies against this or that and understanding the chess of it all. I think he's a great like chess player in the moment. He's a great on the fly thinker and improv man. So we'll go on to the next kind of decade here. So we got here early 2000s, and you might see, whoa, the title's really interesting to this slide here. Owner Nick Nurse, which is really interesting. I picture him like looking like this as an owner, like kind of really clean cut, like double parted hair, like really intense. I don't know. I see him probably like that. It's kind of funny. All right, so we'll continue on. So we put a pin in the fact that he kind of got fired from the BBL, I think, let go when the China didn't kind of it got figured out a bit and got beaten, so he had to kind of come back. And his predecessor, the person that kind of replaced him, won with that team. But it's interesting that same coach then got the same results that Nick Nurse did the next year, right? In 80 or 98, 99, which we can see here. 98, 99, and 2000 he was with the BBL Manchester Giants. Probably a better club. They saw what he could do with probably lesser talent and say, hey, bring this guy in. Let's see if we can turn things around. It actually said, interestingly, that he made a gamble getting him to Manchester. And it's really interesting. Like, so obviously, the first year, I think he was more settling into the job, getting his system in place, getting the players to kind of maybe go on this run because he went on a little bit of a run with the Manchester Giants. It's a really interesting point, I think, in his career after that first setback, coming back from it like this. So the next year, the 99, the Uniball trophy is actually like kind of like the FA Cup in like Premier League where there's like a mid-season tournament, and he actually beat Derby for it, which is really interesting. Another flashback from before. Really interesting. But it showed that like he still had it. He still had the ability to win. And I think it showed obviously, and he got another All-Star game head coach nod. So he's mingling with the players again, talking to All-Stars, getting his knowledge deeper on the stars, understanding different talent levels and understanding what the best guys do to train before games and all these little tidbits and little different things and all the GMs and the general managers like talking to everyone, right? He's there mingling like he does now at the All-Star game, right? But obviously he's in the mix for the game this year. And then obviously it's interesting. He wins the coach of the year in 2000, which I think is his first coach of the year, I'm pretty sure. But in that year, he broke through and actually beat the Birmingham Bullets with that coach, Mike Finger. So it's funny how like they fired him and then he comes back with a different team and beats that team with the guy that replaced him. So I think it's really interesting how he can kind of reinvent and come back and really do a lot with like different guys and show a different flexibility and variety to his game, really unique side to all of this, I think. So then obviously the big boys came looking. You don't win two championships in our league and not get a look at from the biggest club there is, right? The London Towers brought him on for a year. I think maybe the Stars didn't like running the system or something happened, whatever. You know what I mean? Stuff happens. Well, actually, like I'm gonna go into it in a second, but so he got another All-Star game head coach. So he's mingling with the players, getting to know them again. Like so, he started to really know like everyone in the league pretty much, from like way back then when he got his first All-Star game head coach nod till now, right? And that's been a couple years. So it's really interesting how he kind of sees different stars develop. Maybe their mindsets have changed. They've kind of developed through a different time phase, 'cause so he kind of can see the different changes and maybe ask them about different experiences. Because I think he likes people as people. He likes to learn people as people. Because I think people who you are bleeds out into everything you do. Like you can see that I think really logically, so obviously a lot of the things that come out of my mouth or what I'm trying to prove, it comes down to like logical thinking and kind of deduction and kind of courtroom stuff or whatever. I'm not going to go too deep into that. It's a foxhole or rabbit hole as it is. But so I think this is really interesting because then he goes to the Oklahoma Storm where he's an assistant to a great player in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I think he really starts soaking up some timeless knowledge there and really learning from him. and maybe the pitfalls of management and all these other type of stuffs. And I think that was like he wanted to do a favor and also learn some things. I think he's always looking to learn from the greatest people or the people that have come before him or different coaches. Like talk to Belichick, sorry, and oh my gosh, Boston fans are gonna fire me up for that. All right, so he so actually like I think this was more of like a summer league, right? So when he comes back, there's this rich owner that wants to make him the deal of the lifetime, right? And say, hey, you can come here and it's your show and we'll give you part ownership. What was the first year, right? So 2001, 2002 season where he was part ownership. But then actually after that season, he became full owner. So he was literally head coach, GM, director, and owner. So he was Larry, Masai, Bobby, and himself for one team for 5 years. So he owned like a pro team. Nick Nurse actually was a full owner of a pro team. And he scouted and did the GM work, signing contracts and learning how to like kind of set up basketball operations and schedules and practices and all that kind of stuff. And also doing schemes and schematics and all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. It's really interesting, like, he actually did really well at all of this. He kind of transformed the team, rebuilt the team, kind of wanted to more get more serious competition. So in 2003, he moved up and wanted to kind of fight it out with the bigger clubs and show his like baby off, kind of the baby he built from every position pretty much, which is really interesting. And he won a cup, which is honestly incredible. I highlighted that because it's not a championship. Like, well, it's similar to the Uni Ball trophy, I'm pretty sure, but it was like the best leagues, I think, more like under the Champions League kind of style. And then 2004, he got the BBL Coach of the Year, so his second Coach of the Year nod, which is really interesting. And I think it just eventually just the Brighton wasn't the place to build this kind of like thing. So he understood the dynamics of fans and money and revenue and all that kind of stuff. You need fertile ground to build a real great contender and a great culture that has lifetime value, sustainability. Like to build sustainability, you need fertile ground, right? And I think that's where some people didn't understand that quote from Larry Tannenbaum where he said Masai has everything he needs here. It's really interesting. Masai literally has Trudeau on the phone. He has like a ravenous fan base across Canada, like literally across Canada, and it's really interesting. I'm gonna hint to drop a video I might do eventually, but I think he's kind of really expanded what he sees the Raptors being. He sees the Raptors being an international team. So like the Lakers might have America, but the Raptors will have the world in a sense like that. And I'll stop it there for now. It's a bit of a hole, you know. You go real deep into what I'm getting into there, but I think there's a lot of points I want to get into before like talk about certain aspects of Masai, right? So we'll get back to the video, right? So that summer he goes back to that same Oklahoma Storm team after the team kind of falls apart and folds due to money and obviously fertile ground, a new term that I kind of playing out here. So we'll move on, and obviously we have our championship marker. We got two official championships, two British Basketball League championships. I'm only going to count official chips, not trophies and stuff, but it's still good to mark there to know that, like, kind of if there was a tournament, mid-season tournament, Nick Nurse has Nick Nurse has experience in that too. He's just look at that brain. It's so huge. I don't even know how it contains all the information he has. But we'll move on right now. So we got now G League Nick Nurse. I think it's really interesting. One of the stories he's told before from his book, and you can go back and reference probably his whole journey up until now, like, and know the exact details and details. It's probably a fascinating read because Nick Nurse is an interesting man. We got Nate Bjorkren Bjorkren on this as his assistant, his trusty lead assistant there with him, at least in Iowa. We'll talk about something, I guess. It's funny, but Iowa for the first couple of years at least, and so he tells this story where he's actually friends with the owner of Iowa Energy, and they started. This was their inaugural year, and like, who better to come and build a program than Nick Nurse? You know what I mean? Bring in the guy that kind of was an owner just previously, and unfortunately, the team didn't have solvency, so it kind of folded and went defunct. I'm sure he's got enough money and he's fine. So, but interesting enough, his owner friend comes to him, like, he understands what like ownership is, GMing and all that kind of stuff, and he wants to bring in the right guy to kind of make it all kind of fit and really make sure Iowa Energy makes a stamp in Iowa. And I think that really touched close to his heart because he is from Iowa, right? So he spent like 4 years there, which is quite a bit of time working with his friend as the owner, right? 2000, 2011 Coach of the Year. So I think that's three Coaches of the Year now. And he got the 2011 G League Championship, where I think actually, yeah, he got that one with Nate, I think. And then he got an offer for a head coaching job somewhere else, like this. He like it's really interesting that he won it with Nate, I guess, and then, well, he got offered a job, right? A great job, like a premier job, right? And then they kind of like got a new owner or a new GM, so like they didn't honor the contract on him, and he actually went to court and got his money back. But then I think he came back, resumed his job at the Iowa Energy, and that was actually the year 2011 where he won the G League championship. So then he went to the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and he lost, I think, a finals to Nate, and then he won one against Nate. I'm unsure about the whole logistics, but either way, obviously he's working with NBA talent the whole time. Like, that's a quite a bit of time right here. '07 to 13, 6 years of working with, learning how to develop and kind of in conjunction with a bigger squad, and kind of when he wins this 2013 championship, he's a four-time champion. Like, man, that's impressive. That's impressive. I'm not surprised that he wasn't like made higher up position quicker, right? After all his experience and resume, but I think people were unsure because he didn't go through the natural like college route that the most coaches come from. And I think this is where the new prototype is going to come from. because there's so many international players coming in. You need to know how they've grown up playing. You need to understand the international game. You need to understand the different customs, different things like that. And I think Nick Nurse is always learning and always testing his brain out, always wanting to really learn about people and places and all that type of stuff. And I think he's really genuine with it, right? If you're genuine, players see that and wanna play for you and believe that when you talk to them because they know you're telling them the truth and you want the best for them because you actually know them and care about them and care to know them, right? That there's so much that goes into a coach and player relationship. There's, like, this trust that, "Hey, if you don't understand something, just do it for now, and you might see what I'm talking about." Like, that kind of blind trust from the player, and then, like, different star players, high quality star players, if they have that ability to kind of trust in Nick Nurse kind of in different spots, which I think is really interesting, where you saw the boxing one happen, where he took Kyle to the side and kind of drew up the boxing one and showed it to him. And, like, he didn't actually sell it to the team. It was like Lowry went and then sold it to the team and tried to explain it out to the guys and stuff and really pushed it. And that's that type of trust you need to win championships. You need to have an honest, true trust. And I think if there's all this like tomfoolery or all this business here and there and like all this kind of different things swirling around your coach or your GM or your owner or your president of basketball operations, I think that create it taints like this kind of energy you get when everything is really working and really working really well. Like, I think Nick Nurse saw the results from not being able to pay his players as much probably, but getting results, right? And it's about how you treat people, how you give them confidence in themselves. That's the that's what a coach's job is to do, to facilitate growth, but also put that player in position to do well, but then also give them the right criticism to fix the things they don't do well. And I think he does a great job of doing both, giving confidence. Like, you've been working on something, all right, it looks good. Let me check it out. Oh, it looks nice. All right, I'm gonna try to work that in a couple plays, see if we can get that going. Maybe we can unlock that weapon for you. Get yours get your market value up, which he talks about a lot with the players. Like, get your skills up, learn a new instrument pretty much. Like, in Nick Nurse's mind, like, why not learn every instrument if you can, right? It probably every instrument has these unique different aspects to different things and stuff. And I think it's really interesting that he kind of sees it and he's really great with people and he's great with basketball. So he sees both sides of it. And I think it's really refreshing, probably for Masai and Bobby to kind of have a partner like that. We'll go into it in a second. I don't want to jump the gun, but I think his time in the G League showed that, like, he's a top level coach. This guy has been through it. He's won so much. I'm not even talking about the division stuff. Like, the division stuff and all these random trophies that he's won is ridiculous. I'm trying to focus on the main stuff here, obviously, the stuff that kind of has more weight. So this this part of him shouldn't be like left on the table though. I think everyone obviously understands that this part is here, but I think those other parts are important too. All of it's important in the big grand scheme of who he is. So we'll go on now and we'll move on to the final slide here. So we got here the glorious Nick Nurse and obviously our prize trophy, which is my here logo, I guess you can call it. LRF logo, the Logical Raptors Fanatic logo, and he looks great. And I wanted to kind of I could have got a more formal picture or celebratory picture or whatever, but I think I wanted to put the guitars in it to kind of symbolize and kind of tie everything together. Like this number is here, right here, to kind of tie all of this together because I think it's about the journey and the development, right? He was literally the youngest coach in the country when he started head coaching at Grandview in the USA at 23 years old. And now, 23 years later, so pretty much half his life to become like a head coach, kind of. And then another 23 years of crazy experience winning and doing all these different things, being owner, GM, all these kind of different things. And I think it's really crazy to kind of put in like perspective everything this man's done. He's such a winner. I don't know how anyone let this guy slip through their fingers. Well, obviously, so he signed his contract in July, and that May we had an interesting change, a GM change, where Masai came in and became the GM. He obviously had list this list of people that he wanted to kind of like switch out with other people. So he'd been pretty much floating around the league, learning what works, what doesn't work, kind of. Well, I'm just gonna throw down a little bit thing here. Maybe I'll go into something deeper, crazier when I talk about him in a different video, but we'll lay something down here, right? So he went around the league. He went up from scout all the way up, right? All the way up to the big dog, the big cheese, the presidente, right? The big dog. But he started out from the bottom, and he obviously met certain good people on his way. Like, he's a great people person. People can tell he's a special person right away. And it's really interesting. David Thorpe, shout out. Scotty Barnes, Prophet, laid the word and knew he was going to be great. Well, but he got him a scouting job, and then kind of Masai works his way in, right? But he learns about all these great different people, what works, what doesn't work, right? And then he gets the executive of the year for fixing the Denver Nuggets and getting them back to the playoffs after they traded away Melo, which was a crazy, like, fathoming thing that you could trade away a star like that, Melo, in his prime, kind of, and still contend to make the playoffs. So I think obviously after Brian Colangelo kind of fumbled everything with Bargnani, we were looking for someone to come in and kind of solve everything and kind of change the direction of where we were going. So in 2013 May, we made a GM change and got Masai Ujiri. And 2 months later, funny enough, he brings in Nick Nurse, which now you could see Nick Nurse rides with us pretty much every season up until obviously the two sweeps. So I'll go through it quick if people aren't familiar. So 13-14, we take Brooklyn to 7, then we get swept by the Wizards, then we take Cleveland to 6 before they win on Golden State, the best team ever. And we actually didn't have a great team that year. The front court was kind of a mess, but I'll go into that in another video too. I'm dropping so many hints here. Wow. Jeez. All right. So then we go to the first sweep and then the second sweep. Okay, right in between this time right here. So the first sweep, Masai looks to change the offense, and I think that's where Nick Nurse is installed into the offense and kind of leading the offensive charge with the threes and the moving the ball because the offense changed completely, kind of differently overnight. I think there were certain aspects, like, unfortunately, Dwayne Casey, he was a great coach and did really well, but I think he was too rigid. He's one of those musicians that sticks to the rules too much, like, you need to get the ball to the point guard, after the rebound, the bigs get the ball to the guard, and he wouldn't let actually Siakam bring the ball up the court after a rebound. Like, Lowry used to beg him to let Siakam bring the ball up after a rebound and stuff, and he just wouldn't have it, right? And I think that's also another nail in his coffin. Obviously, we talked about one of the nails in his coffin before previously in my trade tree video. If you haven't checked it out, there's a couple videos really good. You should check out the extension series. I know the audio's not on this mic, so it's on another mic, but the information's still great and stuff. And all this stuff all my videos kind of tie together. I want to make them kind of like timeless, but we're all kind of going on the same journey. So each video kind of is a piece. I always want to like tie them all together and make sure that like the points I'm putting out kind of make sense and get more developed through time, right? So in that year, I'm not going to go into the sweeps right now, but we'll just say, yeah, that's part of it. Playing OG, starting OG, which kind of hindered the variation. And obviously, Nick Nurse understood why Dwayne Casey was fired. He understood kind of what he was doing wrong, and I bet there was probably some resistance kind of there, and that's why this bad blood between them. It seems like when the teams match up and he wants to beat Nick Nurse, I think he sees Nick Nurse as the young whippersnapper that kind of hasn't really made his name in the NBA yet, and that kind of didn't deserve that championship team where he kind of built it up. And I think there's hard feelings between them two. Well, not like just competition wise. I think they're both professionals. They understand the business of basketball. Nick Nurse didn't choose this. He didn't choose any of this, but there were certain reasons why. And I think Dwayne Casey's still kind of ignorant to them a bit because of some of the comments he made, or maybe he was just being defensive. I understand, like, he felt hurt. He won the Coach of the Year, first seed, but he still gets fired. It didn't make sense. And I think when you look back on Nick Nurse's background, you can see exactly what kind of switch was needed. And then I gave you an example of something like the box and one on Steph Curry that actually made a really big difference in the finals when Fred Van Vliet, shout out Fred Van Vliet, got a finals MVP vote. So he's technically the 2019 finals MVP runner up. Van Vliet, your man, locking down Steph Curry, well, staying on his hip and like making it tough for him to get the three ball off. He was getting some rims off the opportunity and staying so close to him, not giving him space. He got some breakaways and some two ball or yeah, he got some two balls sometimes, but mainly foul shots. He was getting a lot of foul shots, so he couldn't get into his three ball rhythm, which where he's really deadly. And it's interesting how Van Vliet kind of mirrors his game after Steph Curry a bit and stuff. But anyways, back to Nick Nurse. So obviously that year we won the championship with Kawhi and stuff. But I think the next year is really where he earns see like yeah the championship, but then the next year he earns his spot as like a great coach because I think a lot of coaches can win with talent, but what are you going to do when your best player is gone and the centerpiece to your offense and stuff? And it's really interesting that in that year we did pretty well without Kawhi, but it's really interesting what he did this year, and that's why he got coach of the year, fourth, I believe, if we're counting right, fourth and fifth championship. We marked it. We got it up here, and another all-star head coach. So now he's mingling with the greatest stars in the world. Like this man just there's so much he has to offer, I believe. And it's really interesting. So we'll go through some of the years where he actually head coached because I think that as an assistant coach, you only have so much influence and stuff. But it's really interesting. So the run it back year, great year, fun team, better winning percentage than the championship team you can see there, right? And it obviously less games, 72, so there's 10 less games. Unfortunately, I feel if there wasn't a bubble, I think we would have seen a better performance in the playoffs, but obviously 11 games played, 7 wins, 4 losses is still good. It's actually really good. Like if you see his record, man, it's ridiculous. So then obviously we got the Tampa year, another like 72 games, and it's tough. Like that was a tough year. I think we weren't prepared to lose Ibaka and Gasol, and even Masai admitted that he got the wrong centers. He brought in the wrong centers, I think, and I don't think that year is really on Nick Nurse. But he's not a he's not a stranger to taking a bad punch. He understands what this is about. It's the long run. It's building up to this again. Like in all his other teams, when he moves to another team or after a championship, he continues on looking for that next one, always looking for that next one, always looking for that next one, always looking for that next one, right? And he's got 5. So he's a great winner, right? He's a great winner. Championships at like every level, pretty much at the professional level. So I think this year wasn't a big surprise to a lot of people. They felt that this year was going to be a really big bounce back. Obviously, a lot of people probably aim more at probably the 6th, 7th, and 8th seed. Didn't see really the 5th going that high. But at the same time, I think he really showed in this season and the run it back season. I think there were injuries, right? And he had to kind of make do with what he had. Like this was a thinner roster, depth completely kind of took it out for the trades, getting championship pieces and kind of letting them go. Like first year we let go of Kawhi and Danny Green, so 2 starters gone. Next year, Ibaka and Gasol, so another starter and pretty much another like they pretty much played the same minutes, so they played together and like as much minutes as each other pretty much. So losing kind of a double starter package because he was starting a lot that year when Gasol was hurt and stuff. So then we go to this year and we lose Norman Powell and Lowry. So every year we kind of lost like 2 guys off that championship rotation till now where we have a younger, interesting, more better potential team. And I think Nick Nurse has been in this spot before. He's been in the spot he's been in all these spots all the time, all it's insane his journey, man. He's an incredible coach. I'm so glad. He's 54, so he's still got a bunch of years left in him, and I hope he spends all of them in Toronto. I swear, man. I feel like he could be the next pop, like the new international pop of Masai's like collection of international, unique, crazy, great, just hardworking guys. And I think that's what Nick Nurse wants ultimately. Like I think there was no question re-signing back on his contract. He got I think it was a 4-year, 8-year per year or 8 million per year contract, and he's worth every bit. And I think that's about the the high level of where the coaches were at when he signed that contract, right? So we have him for a couple of years. We're good. We're good. No need to worries. We have everyone locked in, Masai and everyone. So we're gonna have a great ride with this young, great new core. and maybe the next younger core. He's so great. He's probably worked with every type of player, veteran. He knows how to like talk to them, how to engage them with the basketball, try to talk to them in a way that really keeps them focused and engaged and part of the team. And he understands how to utilize players. So I'm gonna leave it off right here. This season's gonna be great. I know I believe it. It will be. Hopefully, no injuries, no nothing, knocking on wood. We'll see. I guess now housekeeping. I'm sorry about the length of the video. I kind of dropped a lot of hints and stuff and wanted to kind of really make this one special. I think Nick Nurse is a great and special guy, and I really care about our team and stuff, and I believe he does too. Cares about Canada. He's pretty much adopted Canada. As you can see on my new kind of outro page, I got Canada and a bunch of slogans and stuff, and I think those are some of the themes I want to have in my channel. And a couple of great pics, some young pics of him holding some trophies and stuff, and coaching the international team and stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna try to work on things. I'm actually in the middle of looking for a place to move, so it might be this month, might be next month. I'm trying to see, but hopefully even if I'm like in the middle of moving, I'll maybe be able to make like a short thing or something, still throw something out there. Hopefully there's some interesting something I could tie to a timeless aspect where I could maybe go through something, explore something. Obviously, there's been a lot of negative news about coaches and stuff, and I want to say that I'm blessed to have an organization that really cares about that stuff, like integrity, family, team, together. And I want to have that on my end page too, to really let people know that this is the energy I want coming from my channel. And I want you to know blessed for all the comments and support and all the new people that have come in from Grubstown and Raptors, Fanatic, Alex. Like it's it's been special, man. I want to thank everyone. None of this is here without you guys, and I just want to thank everyone for the subs, the likes, the supports. Maybe I met you at a chat somewhere or something like that. Know that you guys could chat to me in the comments anyway. Like if I'm like the way I chat in the comments, I kind of joke around a little bit. I like to be a joker, but I like to get smart and logical when we're talking serious ball, right? Because I love the game of basketball and stuff. I love the Raptors, and I try to like kind of just keep people informed. If there's some misinformation out there, I kind of like kind of correct it where in the spaces I am. So I just don't want to be like person that like wants to know it all, but I love this team so much, and I want to just express it with everyone and grow the fan base, show maybe other fans what some of the cool aspects of the Raptors. Maybe they'll have more respect for the Raptors and stuff. Maybe educate some Raptors fans so then maybe they can become smarter and really love this team the way I love it so deeply in so many aspects. So, all right, bless. I hope this season's great. This is Mike out. Logical Raptors fanatic. Mic drop.